Representative from the 10th for his maiden speech.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Zora Neale Hurston once said, "If you're silent about your pain, they'll kill you and say that you loved it." As I think about my time here in the legislature, I've been silent about the disrespect this body has shown to the city, county, and communities that I represent. Going forward, I will never be silent again. We've starved Milwaukee of its fair share of our own revenue for over 2 decades. And now, this body comes together to finally debate shared revenue, while Milwaukee and local governments across the state are facing financial constraints. We are coming to these communities at their lowest, and AB 245 leverages that pain in which the communities are facing to force them to accept less than what they deserve. We are debating this legislation when my community faces no other choice but struggle. Many local leaders are strongly against this proposal. At the end of the day, this body has given local governments a losing hand. Now, when we come to them, when they're at their most vulnerable, and we offer them this measly improvement, we should be doing better. And we have a responsibility to do better. This body can pass intentional policy that truly addresses the needs of every single community across the great state of Wisconsin. We can take longer than 2 weeks to debate it. We can revisit the formula every few years, not every 2 decades. And maybe if my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are interested, maybe, Mr. Speaker, we can pass policies that truly invest in individuals and communities so that everyone in Wisconsin thrives, not survives. Now let's talk more about Milwaukee. Even under the constraints Milwaukee has been under for decades, we've continued to function and make innovative budget cuts just to survive, all while giving more and more each year to our state. Over the past 10 years, the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County has contributed over $400 million to the state in taxes. And for every dollar the city sends in, we only get 27 cents back. So to say that we're looking for a handout, which a lot of folks on the other side of the aisle, Mr. Speaker, have said, it's ridiculous. We're looking for our fair share. Unfortunately, AB 245 does not provide the needed investments in Milwaukee or Milwaukee County. I oppose the proposed funding formula even as a clean bill because it leaves folks behind, Mr. Speaker. But this bill that has been proposed today is dirty. It is a Republican wish list, once again leveraging the pain of local communities to pass policies that those communities do not want. It would undermine local control. It would also put more police officers back in Milwaukee public schools in spite of the efforts in which Black, brown, and indigenous youth who have organized for years diligently to reduce the school-to-prison pipeline and invest more in mental health, education, and other services that help young people thrive have fought for. And it's not just about the schools. AB 245 takes away the ability of local municipalities to exercise local control over policing. Well, let me tell you about just a few of the many negative experiences that I've had as a black man in this state with law enforcement were. At the age of 12, just 12 years old, I was walking home from school by myself when officers detained me and questioned me for 40 minutes. They had no reason. There was no accountability for these officers later. And I had to face that trauma at that age without my parents present. What had I done wrong? Nothing. I simply was a young black man or a young black boy, because folks commonly classify young black boys as men. Alone. At the age of 15, I was at the lakefront enjoying the 4th of July, our country's independence. Right? With my friends, when officers arrived and gathered about 50 young people of color, including me and my friends. And through the combination of squad cars and horseback, the officers herded us like cattle and forced us to walk over 4 miles all the way to the north side of Milwaukee, assuming that we all lived there. I didn't get home till 2 a.m. This practice of herding young people of color away from the lakefront continued for 4 years until the ACLU, Micah, and other advocates had to file a lawsuit against the city of Milwaukee, and they won. But what had we done wrong? Nothing. We simply were young black teenagers trying to enjoy a summer day in a public park. At age 17, I was waiting on a bus stop, when 2 young people attempted to assault me. As I was defending myself, two officers drove straight past me. Did nothing. As a young black man, was I not worth protecting? So when you imply that investing exclusively in the police is the same as investing in public safety, you are missing the full picture. And how police interact with my community should be acknowledged. AB 245 would also eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion positions and investments in the city of Milwaukee, which has the worst racial disparities in the country. From modern-day redlining to mass incarceration of black males, to reading levels, to maternal and infant health, to so many other disparities. To say that we should not be examining the relationship between race, class, and gender on all of these issues ignores hard evidence and lived experience. Some of these policies apply exclusively to Milwaukee, but the one thing that will be clearly harmful to every community is stripping away the local control and budgetary autonomy of those communities. This goes for the entire state. Villages, towns, cities, counties, they've all been undermined and underfunded for decades. And while members on your side of the aisle, Mr. Speaker, have had the opportunity to address this since 2011, they've sat on their hands while everyone has reached a breaking point. Decades of austerity are forcing communities to accept less than they deserve. Nobody wins under this plan. Under AB 245, everyone is being forced to fight for a small, fixed pot of money, functioning as crabs in a barrel, all while the state sits on a nearly $7 billion surplus. Instead of legislating under the yoke of austerity, we should be expanding the pot of money so that everyone wins. And we should also be taking more than just a few weeks to ensure that we are all getting all the details correct. So having talked so much about Milwaukee, I want to close by thanking the city that I call home. It's a true privilege and honor to stand here today advocating for the county and the city that I belong to. The community that raised me, educated me, shaped me into the man and advocate that I am today. It is for Milwaukee that I will be voting no and encouraging everyone in this room to be voting no on AB 245. This is not what we need or deserve, and we must do better. What we do here and now will define our future, Mr. Speaker. So let's do it. Thank you.